Hi, it's Sophie from Stratus. And today we're going to be talking about how long it actually takes to build your MBA application. So, a lot of folks ask me, how long is it going to take me to put this together? Some folks come to me a year early, sometimes many years early, and then there's people who roll in 4 weeks before the deadline. Obviously, the answer is it's going to depend on you and your situation. But here are some things that you can consider while you're mapping out what your timeline could be. I think for everyone to start, you can take a step back and just consider all of the elements of the application, and they usually go in this order. First being the test, whether you're taking GMAT, GRE, EA, or a waiver. Second is the introspection and strategy process, then the resume, then your letters of recommendation, your essays, and all those little nitnoid questions in the online portal. So, starting with testing, prep time for these really is going to vary by person, but I feel like the average number is 6 to 8 months for preparation. And it's nice to know that you've got several opportunities to take the test so that in your head, you're not feeling super nervous going in on that one shot that you have. So be sure to leave at least time for one more subsequent attempt. All right, number 2, introspection and strategy development. First, you're going to want to explore and clearly document what your career goals are for both the short term and the long term. You're also going to want to craft personal strategy documents and select your target schools. Nailing all of this down is really critical, and the earlier you do it, the less churn you're going to have on the back end when you're writing your essays. I would say this part of the application should take you about 3 to 4 weeks. Next up is the resume. Some people have resumes that are already tailored in the MBA format. That's pretty classic. But other folks have resumes I've seen that are multiple pages long, have a lot of funky colors on them, and they might be really neat from like a design perspective, but that's not what you're going to want to submit for this. So it'll take some time to adjust the content and the formatting, but the good news is it's probably going to be the same resume for every single school. So once you get it done, you don't have to return to it as you work on other applications. And it's probably a very similar resume to what you're going to use once you're at business school recruiting for your next job. So you're going to want to dedicate at least 2 to 3 weeks on this for multiple iterations in order to get it to a place that you feel really happy with it. Next is the letters of recommendation. So you're not writing these yourself, so it's not going to be, as much time as you're going to have to dedicate to the essays. But what you do want to do is 2 things. One, you want to give your recommenders plenty of heads up. I think 6 weeks would be the minimum for a polite length of time to ask a busy professional to do something that they're not going to get paid to do. And the next thing you're going to want to do is prepare them with some content. Like I said, you're not writing these recommendations for them, but you do want to sort of guide them in the direction of what themes you're trying to share on your application. So it would be nice if they're echoing what you're already saying instead of mentioning stories and examples completely out of left field. So that preparation that you're going to want to share with them is going to take some time. So be sure to give them at least 6 weeks to get these done. So after accounting for the couple weeks that it's probably going to take you to think of what you want them to share, you're going to also want to factor in at least 6 weeks for them to write their recommendations. And the truth is they might still wait until the night before it's due, but at least you gave them plenty of time. Okay, then the longest part of this application process is the essays. Researching which schools you want to apply to and having conversations with students there in and of itself is going to take a couple weeks depending on how many schools you're applying to. And then once that's done, you can finally get started on outlines. And I like to spend a lot of time on outlines because I feel like the essays pretty much write themselves, so long as the outlines are constructed well. So it's worth doing that in order to not have to unwrite long verbose paragraphs later on. Once you're done with the outlines, then you move on to the essays. Each of those essays is going to take several drafts in order to get to finalization. Once you start writing a few essays, you're probably going to realize you are going to begin recycling at least a portion of those essays for your subsequent ones. So the pace should actually pick up over time. That being said, you still want to allocate around 2 to 4 weeks for essays for each school, understanding that you might be doing a few in parallel. And finally, the online portal. So I think a lot of people like to leave this until the night before it's due because it just kind of seems like easy little boxes that you're inputting information in. But the fact of the matter is, it actually does take some time. It can be tedious. And in some of these boxes, you've got a substantial number of characters or words you can use to describe things, such as activities that you did during undergrad and other extracurriculars. So you're going to almost want to give those as much attention as you are your essays. So be sure to start these early on and have enough time to get a second opinion on something that you've written in there, or to iterate on them further, or even lead time to collect other information that they're asking for, like your transcripts. So as you can see, the length of this process is really going to depend on the person, but here's a few things that you could consider while you're trying to come up with your personal timeline. One, are you going to work on each of these schools in sequence, doing one at a time, batch by batch, or are you going to do them in parallel? Kind of depends on how you like to work. Second, have you already taken the GMAT or GRE or EF? And how'd that go? Be realistic with how many more attempts you think you're going to need to take and how much more support you're going to need in order to get there. Number 3, how many schools are you applying to? If you're only doing one school or a few programs, that's going to be a lot more manageable than someone who's doing a shotgun blast to 20 different schools. Okay, that would be a lot. I've never actually seen that, but I have seen things like 10. So be realistic given your other demands that you have going on in your life, especially with work. Next, are you planning for any curveballs that could come up, or any vacations that you are going to be taking and probably not working on any pieces of your application during that time? Be sure to factor that in. And finally, how fast do you normally work? That's going to be different for everyone and will also depend on what else you have going on outside of work. If you put plenty of buffer room into your schedule, that's probably only going to help. And best case scenario, you end up submitting early and you just get to relax. So hopefully all that information helps you think about how long it's going to take you to get all of your applications done. If you want to run your specific timeline by us or have any other questions that could benefit from a free 30-minute consultation, feel free to reach us to any of the counselors here at Stratus. Best of luck.